about the numbers on those balls, the opening positions in freestyle chess. Welcome to the Take post-game show after the final day of semi-finals. We had some huge results and upsets today and a very long day. David Howell, our grandmaster down at Bison House in the sofa. You have been commentating for many hours today. How tired are you now, David?
I mean, you know me, Kaya. I love my marathons when it comes to chess. I love these long days, long grinds, long games.
This was like perfect boring. For you, that's actually.
Exactly. I'm still pumped. I'm still full of adrenaline. I don't know how I'm going to come down. That's the problem. It's not the games. It's not the duration. It's the after effects later.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the so much to talk about today, David. But the biggest upset today was that Magnus Carlson is knocked out. He was one of the founders of this freestyle chess Grand Slam tour. He is world number 1. He plays Vincent Keymer on home turf, the German favorite, the youngster, and he knocks out Magnus Carlson. Did you see that coming?
Kaya, before the event, I thought actually Vincent would be struggling. I thought he would be fighting for the bottom places. I thought he would do well just to get to the quarterfinals, but the 20-year-old Vincent Keymer, clearly a career highlight. He nearly did it before in 2023, nearly took down Magnus in the World Cup, but this time he went one step further, and a big shock. I've got to say, the biggest shock of 2025 so far in chess, but well-deserved. Congratulations to Keymer. He really played out of his skin today.
100%. Massive congratulations to him and to every German chess fan out there. Let's take a look at the bracket. So semifinals are now done. We are heading into the big final. A massive upset there. Magnus Carlsen lost his semifinal match to Vincent Keymer. And then in the other one, so much drama. Young Sindarov against Fabiano Caruana. Caruana, a favorite in that one from the start. They did play a draw yesterday in the first game, so today a winner in the second game would be heading to the final. But it was definitely not over after the first game with classical time control. They drew that game as well, and it was to be decided in tiebreaks. So first they played 2 games of rapid chess, both of them for a draw as well, meaning they would head into blitz tiebreaks to decide that semi-final. And that's when the real drama started, David. I would love to go through with you now the first blitz game between Sindarov and Fabi. I mean, and let's just jump into the critical moment. What happened?
Yeah, the first blitz game was dramatic. Already Sindarov in the first kind of rapid tiebreakers, he'd been on the front foot. He'd had the advantage against Fabiano twice, wasn't able to convert the advantage. But this game, Fabiano with the white pieces had done everything correct, everything right. He'd unraveled his pieces. He actually had an advantage, a big advantage earlier on. Here, though, things are starting to get scary. We see that, yes, Black's pawn structure is not great. Black has doubled pawns in the center of the board, but it's all about the white king. The white king has an open line near it, the black rook in the corner, just staring down that open line, hinting at an attack. And here Fabiano panicked. I think that's the only word for it. He had 5-10 seconds on his clock. He moved his king up 1 square, but the king walks actually into the line of fire. That black queen now sliding across, threatening a checkmate in 2 if the black queen comes along the diagonal with a check. Fabiano panicked even harder now. He retreated his king, but this only allowed the black rook in with a devastating check. He just forgot his barricade here. He forgot his defenses. The white knight forced to jump in the way as the only blockader. But here we see great play by Sindarov, great calmness to bring another piece into the attack. They do say that 3 is the magic number. The black knight is going to help out the queen and rook to deliver the killer blow. And that's just what happened. Here it's hopeless for Fabiano. He tried to do a little dance here. He tried to bring his king forward. But the black queen, again, helping out its rook, threatening some nasty checks. The white king tried to step back yet again, running indecision from Caruana, but the killer blow arrived in a moment. The black knight first stepping to attack the white rook. The white rook doesn't have many good squares. It captured a pawn, but now the killer blow, forcing resignation, a check from the black queen. The white knight is pinned, so cannot capture that queen. There's no way to block the check. The white king would actually have had to step into the kind of line there between the white queen and between the white rook. Black next move would have captured that white rook for free. So Caruana resigned. I mean, he was reeling here, Kaya. I don't think he knew what hit him. He was down, almost out. It was just a miracle that he found some energy after that crushing defeat.
Incredible. Look at those heart rates as well. They were high in this game, and a huge win there for Sindarov, the 19-year-old from Uzbekistan. He came into the tournament last minute when Vishy Anand pulled out, and here he is, taking the lead in a semi-final against the great Fabiano Caruana, meaning Fabi in that second blitz game with colors reversed was in a must-win situation. He had to win that game to take it to a Armageddon and to have a chance to make it to the freestyle chess final. So let's take a look at that second blitz game, David, where Fabiano Caruana, he has to win it.
Yeah, Fabi had to win. It's difficult to win in traditional chess with the black pieces, especially against a very well-prepared opponent, someone who's determined to just kill the game, lock down the game. But in freestyle chess, it's harder to get those positions where you're entirely 100% safe. And Fabiano with black had taken some big risks. He blocked up the position quite early. He tried to get his queen in, but nothing was working. And here we join it with white, Sindarov, having grabbed 2 pawns. But the one characteristic of this position, the white queen being quite far away from the kings, that ended up costing Sindarov. But Fabiano here is dead lost. We should kind of reiterate that black has a losing position, down 2 pawns, no compensation. I just wanted to kind of commend Fabiano here, praise him for gambling. In poker, we talk about going all in. You have to play the odds. Here, both sides had around 5 seconds left on the clock. But Fabiano, I mean, a stroke of genius here. This is where experience rate really paid off. He sensed there was no more coming back if he didn't pounce now. So he basically tossed a coin. He captured a pawn with his knight in the corner. And here, it came down in his favor, that coin. But if the white queen had slid back on the diagonal, pinning that black knight to the black king, the queen move there highlighted by that thick purple arrow, then Sindarov would have won. He would have been in the final, would have guaranteed $140,000 minimum. And we would have been talking about Caruana against Carlson tomorrow in the 3rd place playoff instead. But the gamble paid off. The knight was captured, allowing a black pawn to step forward. Suddenly, big attack against the white king out of the blue. The white knight forced to sacrifice itself for that strong pawn. And after a recapture, the white queen jumping in with the check. Sindarov had maybe missed that black's bishop can simply block, protected by its queen. And suddenly the white king just all on its own. Only a rook to defend, the power of the black queen and rook teaming up. Sindarov blundered here. He could have fought on, but he was losing anyway. He dropped his queen back. And now after a check, he just resigned, because this back rank check forces the white rook to step back and block when the black queen would have been then sliding over to capture a pawn in the middle, and that would have been checkmate. So Fabiano, Kaya, I don't want to say lucky, but he did ride his luck, and ultimately courage paid off.
Wow, incredible. Yeah, look at those heart rates. This was the moment I spilled coffee all over me in just pure excitement that we would see Armageddon at freestyle chess. The tie breaks going all the way to Armageddon. They couldn't decide it in the rapid. They couldn't decide it in the blitz. And so we were up for some Armageddon chess, meaning they would place bids, and the player with the lowest bid could choose colors. Naturally, that player will choose black, where with a draw, you are the winner. And so we see the players here making the bids. Fabi, he won it. He bid 4 minutes and 15 seconds. Sindarov 4:45. And so Sindarov would play with the white pieces in the Armageddon, and he had to win the game. So David, let's take a look at that game, and let's jump into the critical moment here as well. What's happening?
Yeah, so here we see a much more stable position than the ones from earlier in the day between Sindarov and Caruana. Here we see a totally symmetrical pawn structure almost. The queens are off the board, but everything else still remaining. And Fabiano with his last move by that black rook attacking white's knight. There is a white knight deep in the black camp here. And actually, he should have left this knight where it stood, Sindarov. He started the game with the time advantage. By now, that had disappeared. but he should have stepped forward a pawn to counterattack against Black's knight. There we see the thick purple arrow pointing out White's best move. He should have counterattacked that Black knight with a pawn. Instead, he dropped back with the White knight, and this was a fatal error. Caruana pounced on this mistake. That knight is hanging. That means it's not protected. It's loose. Caruana jumped his knight out of the way, a temporary sacrifice, and when the Black knight was captured, White found his knight captured as well. Material count, Caruana with Black up a single pawn, and that was enough. We saw a few moves down the line. Sindarov tried to muddy the waters, tried to complicate things. He brought his pieces in. He very shortly sacrificed one of his pieces. That White knight now pretty much stuck, actually gave its life in just a couple of moves' time. The White bishop now lining up against a pawn, Black's knight dropping back. And it was here where Sindarov realized, okay, he has to gamble. He gave up a knight. He got some pins in return, a bit tricky for the Black pieces to get out of the eye line of White's bishops, White's rook as well. But Caruana, just fantastic technique. And a couple of moves down the line after a trade of rooks, I just wanted to praise this final move. The clincher, Caruana, after over 7 hours of play, still found a fantastic move. He just slid the Black rook across, giving up his knight in the center. If the White bishop had now captured that Black knight, then the rook would have slid back where it came from with a pin, and that would have been a win. Caruana would have had an extra piece. Instead, Sindarov fought on a few more moves. We can just see it play out. But in the final position, having saved himself, back rank checkmate there threatened, by the way. Having saved himself and saved his extra knight, Caruana took the win. Sindarov resigned, and it was just a few moves down the line. The White bishop, in a moment, attacked by the Black knight threatening to jump forward with a fork as well towards the White king and rook. Just a crazy game, Kaya.
Yeah.
I mean, the heart rate's through the roof, and it felt like there didn't deserve to be a loser there. Both players deserve to win. But that's knockout chess. That's knockout sport for you.
100%. Yeah, we have to praise young Sindarov for giving an incredible fight. But Fabiano Caruana, the 32-year-old from the USA, with incredible stamina and fighting spirit, makes it through to the big final. Are you surprised to see him there, David?
I'm not sure I'm surprised. I think Fabiano was one of the pre-tournament favorites. He's really leveled up in speed chess, in freestyle chess. He's a beast as well. But I mean, I'm not sure whether his path was as smooth as he would have wanted. I can mention that Fabiano yesterday, he actually went for an early night. There was no Avalon, there was no Blitz. He was taking today so seriously. But that means he broke his routine, Kaya. And normally when chess players break their routine, they don't do what they normally do. Things go wrong. And for Fabiano, game one of those semifinals, he was losing. There was one move, Sindarov could have knocked him out. And game three, game four of the tiebreaks, Fabiano was losing. He was nearly out there in the Blitz as well, and the Armageddon clinching it. I mean, that's the sign of a top player, though. You stay strong, you dig deep, and you find a way, you find a result, even when you're not at your best. So I don't know what I expected, but he is a finalist. He's there for a reason.
Yeah. How cool to see Fabiano Caruana. Let's take a look at the bracket one more time. He started out in the knockouts by knocking out world champion Gukesh, and here in the semifinals he wins against young Sindarov. So beating two youngsters there, Fabi, to make it to the final. And then, of course, in the other one, Magnus Carlson losing that match against Vincent Keymer. And we have to take a look at that as well. Vincent was in the lead after the first game yesterday, meaning Magnus was in a must-win situation in the second game today. And look at that, we see frustration from Magnus. Do you think he was feeling a lot of frustration in that game today, David?
100%, especially the latter phases, Magnus, because he got given a chance, he got given a golden opportunity. Vincent let things slip just before the end game, and we all know how good Magnus is in the end game, but it was actually that part that cost him. Magnus missed an opportunity, a golden chance, and yeah, he'll be kicking himself. Magnus, I think 9 times out of 10 would have spotted that opportunity, converted it to a win, but not at his best, Kaya. I'm going to say Magnus. Just something was a bit off today. He was actually feeling confident at dinner last night. He said, "Oh yeah, I think I'm still going to come back. I back myself." He won Title Tuesday yesterday, Magnus, with nearly 100%. But it wasn't his day.
I would
won
love
the board.
I would love to jump into that critical moment, David, to just see what actually happened there with Magnus having chances to win this game.
Yeah, let's jump in. And Magnus, the opening didn't go to plan, but the middle game went very well. Queens are off here, and we do see a small advantage for White, Magnus Carlson in this case, because White has the bishop pair. It's a very open position. White's bishops can cause some serious damage if they're both allowed to remain on the board. There's also a very strong White pawn in the center, very far advanced there. But Vincent now maybe made an error, but also the most natural move in the position, so hard to blame him too much for that. The black bishop now slid back, offered a trade, offered an exchange. Magnus said, yes, please. He took those bishops off the board, gaining a bit of time now against the black knight. He kicked that knight back, and Magnus now correctly went pawn hunting. The white bishop pinned a pawn, guaranteed to win that one now. But Vincent Keymer found the only real practical way to keep fighting. He put his knight on the edge of the board, going after one of White's pawns. Magnus snapped off a pawn with check. So Magnus currently is one pawn up. It's 1-0 in terms of pawns, or 4-3 in terms of what's left. The black king ran away. And this was it. This was a moment where if Magnus had 10 more minutes, Kaya, I think he would have won. I think he would have found the key idea. But the clock, the fact he wasn't in top form, it all combined, and he actually played a very natural move, defending his pawn with the bishop. But we actually see the thick purple arrow there with the white pawn on that left flank. It should have stepped one square forward. That would have given a Magnus a winning advantage. It's difficult because the black knight could have come in with a check, a fork, and picked up that pawn. So it's actually a sacrifice, but it would have given White the necessary time to march forward, sprint forward with the white king into the center to support that far advanced pawn in the middle. Unfortunate for Magnus. I think 9 times out of 10 he finds that in a long game, but here just no time. And this bishop move ran into a really nice maneuver by Vincent Keymer, stepping forward with the pawn himself, creating a escape square for the black knight to jump backwards. And we saw the black knight retreat in a moment and round up simply that pawn that has been intruding, but now the black king, black rook, black knight, just too strong, overwhelming that pawn. And Magnus fought on, he tried, but ultimately wasn't successful. Really instructive what Vincent Keymer did here. He just got active with the knight, with the king. Look at the black pieces pouring forward. The black king going on an adventure. Good tip for everyone at home to activate that piece. The knight now threatening all these tricky forks, forcing Magnus to run away with his bishop. And here, after a check, the black rook also entered the fray, grabbing a pawn at the edge of the board. And Magnus had no answer. The white pieces not coordinating, all on light squares, all targets. And we can show the end here. Really cool move from Vincent Keymer in a moment. He drops his king back, and when the white rook drops back to defend the bishop, knight takes pawn, taking advantage of a pin on the second rank. And after the knight in itself was pinned by the white rook, the black rook gave a check. Magnus had nowhere to go other than back with his king. The black rook would have swung across, grabbing a pawn. The players agreed to a draw. Vincent Keymer went through to the final. And Kaya, this is life-changing, I should mention, for him. He's banked at least $140,000,
Wow.
which for 20 years old is pretty decent. That's going to fund his chess career for years to come.
Wow. Well, that's actually very, very cool to hear. And how cool for Vincent Keymer. He must have been so excited after making it through to the final, winning against Magnus Carlson. Let's hear from the young German.
I'm joined now by the first finalist, Vincent Keymer. Vincent, congratulations. You beat Magnus yesterday. Today you held him to a draw. Before we talk about the game, how do you feel to be into the finals?
Yeah, mostly I'm relieved that I managed to survive this very tough game, and also it's for me like personally incredible achievement to beat Magnus in a match.
And what happened in the game? I mean, out of the opening, very quickly it felt like as black you got pretty much everything you could have hoped for.
Yeah, I mean, you basically, even if I was in a must-win situation, that position would have been quite nice. I mean, my position was, I think, clearly better. I was up on the clock around 20 minutes. So to get myself into that much trouble after that is really not something I'm proud of, but yeah, it happened.
How did you manage to control your emotions with so much on the line, to let go of the advantage and suddenly be under so much pressure? What was happening inside you?
Yeah, I was just trying to focus on the moves, because at some moment you can't really afford to think about all these things. Like if the game, even if something goes wrong after the game, you will have more than enough time to think about everything that you missed or could have played or could have done different. But in that moment, you just have to fully focus on playing the best possible moves, because I don't think there was a single moment when I felt that my position is hopeless.
You are one of the players who always impresses me with how calm and composed you look in general. But today I was sitting kind of behind you and I saw your legs shaking. The entire chair was shaking. Was there were there a lot of nerves, with the feeling so close towards the end to the final?
Yeah, actually, I think even though there was much more at stake than there usually is for me during games, it doesn't really change that much. It's simply that it's a game against Magnus, and I'm very low on time, and the position is very complicated. So that's basically enough to be very nervous, at least for me.
Do you feel, in some sense, you've taken revenge for losing that match to Magnus in the World Cup a couple of years ago?
Not really, actually. Although it kind of is that way, but it never really crossed my mind.
And let's come back to the game. I mean, after a crazy middle game and then in the early end game, suddenly you were under a lot of pressure. Maybe Magnus had some winning chances. And then what happened next? How did you manage to defend so accurately? Talk us through the final moments of the game.
Yeah, I think when I played this knight a5, this is the moment where he has to show his win, if there is one. And when he played this bishop by6, I can only imagine that he must have missed b6, because after that, first of all, the position is, I guess, again, draw. At least that's what I felt like. And also my play becomes so much easier. Like my next few moves are quite obvious, and even though I'm ending up in an endgame pawn down, it's still quite comfortable in the sense that my pieces are very active. Like the structure in itself could be dangerous, because of course an h passer is potentially very risky, especially with a bishop on two sides, always an advantage. But here my knight, king, and rook were like really well placed and active. Also his pawn still on h2, so that I think, the winning chances were quite small.
What was the first thing that went through your mind in the end when you knew, okay, I've got this, it's a draw?
Yeah, the game also pretty much finished right there and then. And I think mostly it was relief that after kind of messing up a great position, I still managed to survive.
And just in the early stages, I was listening to the broadcast, and our commentators were saying, this is maybe the best chess we've ever seen Vincent play. Do you feel similarly?
I think it's hard to compare classical chess to freestyle in terms of quality, but yeah, I think I'm pretty satisfied with the quality of play that I'm showing here.
And finally, let's talk about tomorrow, the next couple of days. That's where it will all be decided in the final. Your opponent is currently being determined in a playoff. Do you have someone you would rather play between Sindarov and Caruana?
No, I mean, Sindarov is, of course, kind of the underdog of this tournament, but he has shown to be incredibly strong, especially in this specific format. So I don't really think that there's a clear someone that should be better or worse for me, and I'm also not really thinking about that. For now, I will just relax, and they will have an incredibly tough time fighting each other and deciding who will win this tiebreak, and then I'm just happy to play whoever wins.
Sindarov, of course, is very close, just 1 year apart, 1 year younger than you. Do you feel it would be nice that the younger generation sort of is taking down, the old elite top players? I mean, old, I say old, I don't mean,
I mean they're not really
they're not that old,
old,
but you know what I mean, the established elite.
It would have something, but I have to say that I don't really care that much about this.
Are you gonna be following the match they are playing right now?
I think I will. Maybe, I'm not sure whether inside, but certainly then on the chess.com or wherever, I will try to see how the games are going, because of course it's very interesting.
Final question tonight. Do you think you'll have any trouble sleeping, or do you think you'll sleep better after beating Magnus? How do your emotions in the evening?
I'm quite lucky in the sense that no matter how nervous, bad, good I feel, I usually sleep quite well and normal during tournaments. So that's also extremely important, because these tournaments are very tiring, a lot of energy, and therefore also a lot of sleep.
Vincent, thank you so much for taking the time. Congratulations on an incredible result, and all the best for the final.
Thank you.
That's Vincent Keymer ready for the first Freestyle Chess Grand Slam event. Final of the year. He's going to play against Fabiano Caruana. That's starting tomorrow. Who's going to be the favorite, David?
Oh, Kaya, I think Vincent starts as at least 50-50, just because he was so convincing against Magnus. He's got home support. I know they don't say that home fans really help necessarily in chess, but it's got to be inspiring. Vincent's here with his partner, his family, his coach, Peter Lecco. They're staying in the same building. He's got everything he needs. And also Fabiano must be shattered, must be exhausted after this marathon. So I'm going to say Vincent. I don't know about you. Who do you think?
Well, I think that was a really good point. Like, Fabi must be exhausted, but maybe also super excited and can live off that for a few days. Only 2 days left in the tournament. I mean, I guess I'll say Fabi, the older player. It's kind of a battle between generations here. Again, right? We do have the youngster, 20-year-old Keymer against 32-year-old Fabiano Caruana. In that sense, maybe, David, we must be rooting for Fabi. We're old now.
Yeah, it's millennials versus Gen Z.
Yeah.
I guess. But, I mean, yeah, Fabi, in my mind, he's still young. He's in great shape. He was in the sauna last night, just kind of chilling, working out. So, yeah, he can do it. I'm not writing Fabi off, but I think Vincent, if he strikes tomorrow, he's going to win. If he lets Fabi recover for a day, then things could turn. Who knows?
Yeah. And it would be so cool to see what happens with the interest for chess in a massive country such as Germany if Vincent actually wins this. That would be so cool to see.
Yeah, and I don't know the numbers these days, but I should mention, Kaya, Germany had the biggest national federation in the whole world until just a few years ago. They had over 100,000 members of their national federation. So, I mean, if we can get all of them playing chess, supporting chess, get more tournaments here in Germany, it could start a real boom, just like is happening in India and Norway. So, yeah, fingers crossed. Vincent, he seems to be the figurehead of that charge.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get an interesting match no matter what happens and what the result is. It's 2 days of a final. The first game is tomorrow. There's also going to be a match for third place between Magnus Carlson and Sindarov, and then Hikaru Nakamura. He is also, of course, going to play. They keep playing for the placement, so it's a battle of 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th place. And Hikaru today was able to win his match against Gukesh, the world champion. It's been a tough run here for Hikaru Nakamura, but I saw him in the studio with you guys interviewing him. Was he seeming a lot more happy today, David?
Yeah, I'm not sure happy is the word, Kaya. I think Hikaru would only be happy with tournament victory being in the final, but I think more relief just because he ended a tricky run of form. He's had so many winning positions this week, by the way. I think he's maybe been the unluckiest of all the players. He hasn't had that killer instinct. Something's been a bit off. He even talked about retirement the other day after losing the playoff with Sindarov. I mean, that's sad to hear. We were talking about generations. And I mean, I've been watching tennis for years, Kaya. I've seen now Federer retire, Nadal retire, Andy Murray retire. It feels like players in their late 30s, that's when it gets difficult, right? In a lot of individual sports. And yeah, for Nakamura, he's 37 now. He's fighting against people literally half his age. He lost to Sindarov, who's 19. So I understand the frustration. But beating Gukesh, that's got to be some consolation. And he deserved it. He was by far the better player in the 2 days.
And so he's going to play Abdusattorov for 5th place tomorrow, starting tomorrow, Hikaru Nakamura. All right. Well, David, it's been such a long day for you. What are you going to do now to round up the day?
I don't know, Kaya. I'm going to pass out at some point. I don't know if it's going to be now or in like 5 hours, but yeah, just a good night's sleep. That's all I'm dreaming of right now. But it was worth it. The chess was great today.
Well, get a well-deserved good rest and a good night of sleep, David. We'll see you again tomorrow for the big final starting tomorrow.
Can't wait. We're there. Final. Woohoo.
I know. It's going to be cool. All right, David. Good night. And to everyone at home watching the Take post-game show, thank you so much for tuning in day after day. Have a good night to you guys as well. We'll see you for the big final starting tomorrow. Bye.